Welcome to Feast Week. Welcome to a great week in sports with the final few days of 46 consecutive days of football and it ending on Monday for Monday Night Football, of course. As, of course, the college games, as we have entered into rivalry week in college football, Ohio State, Michigan, Alabama, and Auburn, and UMass and BGSU. The season has ended for Bowling Green football tonight. We're on the air tonight live post-game after the win in Amherst, Massachusetts. As Bowling Green's season has come to an end, the bowl has run dry for Pudge the Cat. As the season has ended for Bowling Green football, now we look to recap what we witnessed this year and give the final grades, as well as to preview the top 25 college football playoff rankings and the predictions for rivalry week this week. In a huge game for the Midnight Blue and Gold up in Central Michigan in Mount Pleasant. The Lions find a way to come back, and Jahmyr Gibbs is an outstanding player. One of the best players, I think, on the field. And the debut of Shedeur Sanders in Vegas. Just win, baby, for the Browns. We'll look ahead to the schedule for week 13 in the National Football League. The Jackets. And now the injury to Werenski and Olivier. I was in Detroit. We'll talk about that. The Walleye get Mitchell Lewandowski back and get a huge win and get points this weekend against Wichita before now hitting the road for a game in Cincinnati tomorrow night, coming back home to the Tank on Friday night. And Survivor Series is upon us. We know the teams. You'll hear my prediction. Have you got your turkey out of the fridge and out of the freezer? Has it been defrosted? Are you ready for the stuffing? Are you ready for the yams? Are you ready for mashed potatoes? Are you ready for pie? Are you ready for wings on Saturday for the big game? Let's preview it tonight right here on All Andy Alfred. And I love you guys, and welcome in to another edition of All Andy Alfred right here on your exclusive home for me, and that is with the All Andy Alfred Podcast Network, and you're listening to me tonight on the plethora of platforms with the All Andy Alfred Podcast Network, whether it be on Apple Music, Google Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, Bleaker, however you're listening to us, wherever and whenever you're listening to us. Thank you so much for tuning into the show tonight to hear what's happening in the sports world, as well as what's happening in my everyday life. You can always be a part of our show by following us on Twitter. It is at All Andy Alfred. It is at All Andy Alfred, as well as Facebook.com/All Andy Alfred. And welcome us onto the YouTube channel as you're watching us on our YouTube channel right here on the All Andy Alfred Hangout page. And welcome into this show tonight on the 25th day of November, 2025. Welcome to Thanksgiving week. Welcome to Feast week. And welcome to Rivalry week in college football. My rivalry week was back in October, which was the last win that Bowling Green got until tonight. We'll get into that here in just a few seconds, but to get into everything, we're going to talk Walleye. We're going to talk about the Jackets and the struggles and around what's happening around the National Hockey League. We'll preview Week 13 in the National Football League and recap Week 12. And lots to get into, of course, in Survivor Series and so much more. Want to give you a heads up on what's happening with what's going on with me in the last week. We were going to plan and do a show last week on Wednesday, but of course, I was so upset with Tuesday. Went down to Bowling Green for the final home game against the Akron Zips, and unfortunately, Bowling Green could not get away and get the victory against Akron. And we'll get into that game here in a second, but you know, it was a fun season to watch at Deutsch Perry Stadium, and to culminate to what it was on last Tuesday with being so cold, so windy, so rainy. It just proved again, you know, that this season was what it was, a damp season. at the end of the run. And I got to give credit to my ticket rep, Jason. Thank you so much. And to everybody, will I be back for season tickets next year? Possibly, I don't know. It's a good slate for next year. We've already know what the first 4 games are going to be next year. 2 home games at the Doyt, one against an FBS school, and the other game against South Florida. The Bulls will be coming to Doyt Perry Stadium, and the 2 road games will be at Nebraska and at Iowa State. So that is where the 2026 schedule looks right now. We don't know what the Mid-American Conference schedule. We do know that Toledo will be having to go to Toledo to play at the Glass Bowl for the game. So we'll see what happens with that. But a great season for BG. Great season at the Doyt, but the product on the field. We'll get to that in just a second, and we'll give you the grade. You'll hear my grade and my opinion on that in just a second. But other than that, had a good time Saturday. Went up to Little Caesars to take in the Jackets Red Wings game, and we'll get into that game here and what's happening with the Jackets going forward. But every time I go up to Little Caesars, I enjoy my time. I love that building. Is a really nice building. I like Nationwide a lot better, but for a road game and it only being 45 minutes, 50 minutes outside of where my house is at, to get the opportunity to see my guys play, I took advantage of it. I used Vivid Seats for it, and to have the packaging where you can get the ticket and a parking pass in the same room, and getting it that morning for $40 could not pass up in that good seat that I got. And there was nobody next to me, so I had plenty of room and plenty of space. So I was just very, 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 very happy and very, very grateful for everything that I got to take in at Little Caesars, and I'll talk about that more as I go into the podcast. But I did go out and audition for a show, Sense and Sensibility, for the Village Players. Please go out and support this cast. This is a fantastic cast. I unfortunately did not get an opportunity. I won't be in the cast. I thank the production staff and the director for their opportunity to audition and to be a part of it. I am truly honored and blessed to be in this community, in this area that has great theater companies like the Black Swamp Players, the Village Players, and the Toledo Rep, and all the 3B, everybody. I truly am blessed to have this in this area, to get an opportunity to perform and to act and to sing and dance as well too. Epworth Players as well too. I found out that they're going to be doing Hello Dolly. I might be trying out for that. That'll be back. That's into January, so we'll see what that happens. But as of right now, you got me. And of course, our good friends over at the Toledo Rep is getting ready for a Christmas Carol. They're going to be doing that show at Notre Dame Academy next weekend. Get your tickets. It's a 900-seat theater, so tickets are going to be very, very limited. They open up on Friday night. They'll have a Friday, 2 Saturday performances, and a Sunday performance. So please go support local theater. Go support these great talented actors and actresses and the community itself, because without theater, without live theater, the world wouldn't be the same. So there's that. Everything else for me is good. I'm going to be enjoying my Thanksgiving dinner with my wife at her parents' house on Thursday, and then at my parents' house on Thursday. I have the Saturday and Sunday off. I'll be taking in a lot of the Ohio State-Michigan game. You'll see some of the reactions on our Facebook page, as well as on Sunday. I'm going to be taking in a little bit more of the NFL slate. Of course, even though the Lions are going to be playing on Thursday, I'm going to be taking some more of that game. And of course, I've got a couple games circled, and I'll get into that here in just a second. But I'm looking forward to this week, and being the last week of November, we're into that realm where we're getting into the holiday season. So, it's going to be a fun time. It's going to be an absolute fun time. So, and we're going to be doing more shows. One show, of course, a week. But, of course, Tuesday night is the key night for us, because you get the college football playoff rankings. Jackets are sometimes playing. So it'll be between Tuesday and Wednesday. So there's your housekeeping of when we're doing the show. And we'll be doing more shows right here on YouTube as well as on the All Indy Alfred platform. So there is the housekeeping. There's what's happening in my life. So there's that. Now let's get into what we witnessed tonight in Amherst, Massachusetts. And the conclusion of the season, Pudge's Bowl has run dry for the season, and the Falcon football season has come to an end on a good note. On a good note, of course, we will not be going bowling this season with the loss at Eastern Michigan basically eliminating us from bowl contention. The season comes to an end for Bowling Green football tonight, and it was the first win since October 11th. Yes, the Toledo game. That was the last win that Bowling Green got. They have been on a losing streak since then. Losing against Central Michigan, Kent State in the heartbreaking fashion, getting blown out, the doors blown out by Buffalo, losing at Eastern Michigan at the end of the game, and then the Akron game last Tuesday. I was in attendance for that. Sitting there in the rain and the cold on a Maction night on Tuesday night, I'll just tell you this. I love Maction football. I love watching football during the week in the cold and like that. But as a season ticket holder, as it was the last game of the season, I did not enjoy what I witnessed at the end of this game. I mean, to be honest with you, I left at halftime, and it was a tie game. It was Akron was up at the time. It was already cold. I was shivering. I went home, watched the end of the game, and of course, in BG fashion, they had a chance to win it, and they don't win it. Throws an interception with less than a minute to play in the game, and Bowling Green loses to Akron. So it just, to me, that this season has been an up and down season when it comes to Bowling Green football. We had the highest of highs, and we have hit the lowest of lows. And the positivity that we got this for tonight's game was good. We see a lot of younger talent stepping up to the plate. You knew this was what it was going to be. The seniors getting their opportunity to play their last game with the brown and orange jersey. And the fact that, this was the final game for Eddie George for this season. And so he can get the full recruits in, the full season in to get ready for this upcoming season. Now, Bowling Green was favored in the game tonight by 15.5 points. The over-under was 44.5, and Bowling Green covered that really easily as Bowling Green defeated UMass tonight by the score of 45-14. And if you look at this game, Bowling Green was jumped out to the early lead, and they were dominating the game. They were up 28-0 halfway through the second quarter, and then they let UMass come back in the ballgame, scoring a touchdown at the 3:30 mark of the period, making it 28-7. And right before halftime, a trick play gets Bowling Green, and it's 28-14. But then in the end, Bowling Green decided to shut it down, and they shut it down basically with Austin Denty getting a 24-yard touchdown run, making it 35-14. Cleater makes the kick at the fourth quarter, makes it 38-14, and Payshawn Wemberly gets the 1-yard touchdown run and seals the win for Bowling Green by the score of 45-14. And like I said, Bowling Green dominating most of this game. Denty scoring 3 of the touchdowns with 3 consecutive runs in the game. He had 22 carries for 2 touchdowns and 115 yards rushing was for Austin Denty. The quarterbacking team 7 for 9 for 3 touchdown passes, 128 yards passing. Ridley having 1 catch and 1 touchdown for 87 yards in the game. From UMass, it was not a good game as Jordan 22 for 35 for 2 TDs. So he had 223 yards passing, and Faulkner 8 carries for 36 yards in the game. But again, Bowling Green, a huge win, 45-14, ending their season at 4-8 on the year. You look at the final box scores: Hunter Najib, 7 for 9, 128 yards, 3 touchdowns, QBR rating of a 99.1. Great showing for him. Alexa Denti, 22 carries, 115 yards, 2 TDs. His longest run was 24 yards. Cameron Petaway, 12 carries, 87 yards, no TDs in the game. Brendan Ridley, 1 catch, 87 yards, 1 TD. Yaron Johnson, 2 catches, 20 yards. Jacob Harrison, 2 catches, 6 yards in the game. And Blaine Cleaver, 1 catch, 4 yards, 1 TD in the game for him. Gideon Lampron had a total of 6 total tackles and 10 TOTs in the game tonight against UMass. You look at the overall team stats. Bowling Green had 19 first downs to UMass's 16. Bowling Green 3 for 8 on third down efficiency to UMass's 6 for 13 on efficiency. UMass 0 for 3 on fourth down. Bowling Green a perfect 1 for 1. Bowling Green had 406 total yards of offense. 128 through the air, 278 on the ground. They dominated the run. They averaged about 5.8 yards a run in the game. For UMass, they had 292 yards total in yards, 223 through the air, 69 yards on the ground, and the defense really stepped up to the plate. And 2 penalties, 15 yards for Bowling Green, 1 penalty, 7 yards for UMass. And Bowling Green led in time of possession, 32 minutes, 35 seconds to 27-25. A crowd of 6,043 in attendance in Amherst, Massachusetts, where UMass played. And UMass, with the loss, becomes the sixth team in 10 years to go 0-12. They have not won a football game in 24 games. They go 0-12 for the season. With the win, Bowling Green improves to 4-8 overall, and that's their final record for the season overall. Not a good season for Bowling Green. They went 1 and that was the only win in conference play that they got was the Toledo win. That's a shame. That's a damn shame. Before the UMass game, so they are 2-6 in conference play. 2-6 in conference play, and you look at it overall for the season. Overall for the season, as we're recapping the Bowling Green season. Pine, after the injury, he had 94 completions for 151 yards. He had 882 yards passing this year, and you're looking at the quarterback room. Gene coming in 26 completions for 57 yards, 57 attempts for 345 yards. Stepping up to the plate was great. Lucius Anderson, 41 attempts, 245 yards passing in the game. You look at everybody was in the negatives when it comes to that. Rushing was the key thing. Denti, 86 carries for 378 yards. McMillan, 84 carries, 342 yards. Cameron Petaway, 60 carries for 278 yards. Lucius Anderson had 29 runs for 161 yards as the quarterback. In receiving, Finn Hogan, 13 carries for 83 catches for 183 yards. Garcia, 27 catches for 263 yards. Jacob Harrison had 17 catches for 176 yards. He had five TDs this season for Jacob Harrison. The defensive side, again, like I said, stepped up to the plate. Lampron, his overall season for himself had 109 TOTs. He had averaged 2.5 sacks and 22 sacks a yard. He was 59 of the solo round. And, Eddie George's kid, 9 for 15 for 24 TTOs in the game. So, it was a good season for the defensive side. And if you're wondering what my grade is for this season, at the Toledo game, we gave Bowling Green a B. I would say B+. The final grade for the season for Bowling Green is a D. A D. I'm giving it a D. I was going to give it a D-, but I'm going to give it a D. Because of the injuries, because of what was in front of us. But I'm going to state this. It's not passing. It's a non-passing grade. A D is not a passing grade for the season. But we'll see what happens. We'll see what this team's going to look like. The offensive line for next season is gone. All 5 offensive linemen are seniors, and they're gone. Your defense is going to still be there. Your running back situation is fine right now, but you need a quarterback that's going to be steady. You're going to have a better offensive line, and you're going to have a better special teams team to do going into this upcoming season. Eddie's going to have time to do it now, especially he'll have a full year to get everybody ready for this. Will he go to the portal much? I don't know. If I was him, I'd be recruiting. And I like this Mott that they're going to have as a quarterback for next season. I think he's going to be a great player. But like I said, the schedule is rough for Bowling Green next year with 2 games on the road at Nebraska, at Ames against Iowa State, home to play a Texas FBS school. But then you play in that realm, South Florida. Dominant team. South Florida coming to the Doit next season. And of course, you get into the MAC schedule, you've got the road game at Toledo next year. And then you're not going to play Northern Illinois next year because they're gone out to the Mountain West. But you're going to be playing against like Western. You're going to be playing against Buffalo. You're going to play Ohio. You're going to play Miami of Ohio, Akron, Kent State, all these big opponents. And I'm just looking at this upcoming season that Bowling Green has to really step up to the plate. So there's a lot of improvement to come. We look forward to seeing what the spring team is going to look like. But at the end of the season, this is not where we wanted to be as a Falcon football fan. You had a lot to look forward to, especially the win against Liberty, the win at the beginning of the season against Liberty. I mean, Lafayette was a pushover. Battling with Cincinnati was a great run. The blowout at Louisville, but then you go to Ohio, lose that game. That really set the program back a little bit, but they took a huge step forward from coming from behind and beating Toledo 28-23. But then after that, it was not enough. It was not enough. And, the first win since that game, losing to Central, being absolutely demolished by Central Michigan, having the game won against Kent State and just basically folded up the tents and lose 24-21 was a bad loss. Get boat raced by Buffalo the following week, and then losing at Eastern to lose the opportunity to play in a bowl game just didn't help. This didn't help and didn't hurt, and it really hurt Bowling Green's chances. Especially going towards the end of the season, you had possible wins against Akron, and we got the win against UMass tonight. But there was a possibility that they could still be 6-6 and make a bowl game. But it doesn't happen this year. And we finished the season with a 4-8 mark. I just don't like how this season went for Bowling Green. So we'll see what happens in the spring. And I wish all well to the seniors. You did a fantastic job this year. I look forward to seeing what this freshman crop and this recruits will look like come towards spring practice, and I'll probably be there for spring practice. See what this team looks like. Of course, we're losing Pudge because the long snapper is a senior. He's graduating. So the opportunity to see Pudge is gone. After all that, bring on hockey season. Playing Princeton this weekend. We'll see what happens. So there's that. My recap for Bowling Green football. I give them a D in their grade to end the season. A D. There's a lot to improve on. And the injury bug got them. But I'm just going to say this. There's a lot to look forward to. Next season, hopefully. as you are watching and listening to All Andy Alford. So let's dive into it. Of course, the college football playoff rankings have been released. Top 25 has been released for the week for the schedule. The full playoff ranking looks like this. Of course, the number one team still is the Ohio State Buckeyes. Indiana at 2, Texas A&M 3, Georgia 4, Texas Tech 5. Oregon moves up 1 spot to 6. Ole Miss falls 1 spot to 7th. Oklahoma 8th. Notre Dame stays at 9. They will stay at 9. Alabama at 10. BYU at 11. Miami moves up 1 spot to 12. Utah 13. Vanderbilt 14. Michigan jumps 3 spots to 15. Texas jumps 1 spot to 16. USC drops 2 spots after a loss to Oregon to 17th. Virginia 18th moves up 1 spot. Tennessee moves up 1 spot to 19th. Arizona State is 20th. SMU 21st. Pitt 22nd. Georgia Tech falls 7 spots to 23rd. Tulsa 24th, and Arizona 25th. What does that all mean for the playoff rank, for the overall, like, the committee and everything like that, and the bracket situation? It looks like this. Ohio State would play the 8-9 matchup, which would be Notre Dame and Oklahoma if the playoffs started today. It's not Iowa, but Indiana would be the number 2 seed. They would play the winner of the 10-7 matchup, which would be Ole Miss versus Alabama. The third-ranked team would be Texas A&M. They would play the winner of the 11-6 matchup, which would be Oregon taking on Miami Hurricanes, the Miami Florida Hurricanes. And fourth-ranked Georgia would play the 5-12 matchup, would be between Tulane and Texas Tech. And that's how it all breaks out. My apologies. But we have 2 more weeks of this, including the championship weekend, which will be next weekend in college football. But it is a huge weekend. Of course, like I mentioned before, the college football playoffs, like I said, the matchups have been announced, of course. I mean, not the matchup, but the playoff committee has been announced. But big games this weekend. It is rivalry week. It all starts Friday with the Egg Bowl noon kickoff at Mississippi State, as the 7th-ranked Ole Miss Rebels will travel to Mississippi State to take on the Bulldogs of Mississippi State. Mississippi State getting 7.5 points in the game. I'm taking Ole Miss in the game, and these are all my predictions for rivalry week. This is a huge rivalry week in college football. Huge rivalry week. And we'll get into the MAC championship situation here, which is a ton of scenarios. We'll get into that here in just a second. Utah will take on Kansas. Noon kick on ESPN. Utah 11.5 point favorites in the game. I'm going to take Utah in the game. The Battle of Georgia between 4th-ranked Georgia travels up to Atlanta to take on Georgia Tech. 3:30 kick on ABC. Georgia 13.5 point favorite in the game. I'm going to take the Bulldogs of Georgia to beat Georgia Tech and basically put the hammer in the nail into Georgia Tech's season. And then, of course, you have the Battle of Texas, which Texas A&M, the 3rd-ranked team in the country, taking on the 16th-ranked Longhorns of Texas. Texas A&M 2.5 point favorites in this game. I'm going to take Texas A&M in the game, but I am also going to take Texas in the points in this game. I think that's going to be closer than the experts think. I think Texas could do something right there. My one true upset on Friday is this. I think Arizona State is going to beat Arizona. Arizona State 8-3, Arizona 8-3, Arizona getting a game and a half point. I'm going to take Arizona State beating Arizona State in week 14 of the college football playoff rankings. Now, getting into the rest of the top 25 for Saturday slate. 5th-ranked Texas Tech travels to West Virginia to take on the Mountaineers. Texas Tech, I think, is going to easily win this game. The big one, of course, is Florida, Miami, Florida. 12th ranked in the country will head up to Pittsburgh to take on Heisel and the Pitt Panthers. Miami 6.5 point favorites. I'm going to take Pitt in this game. I think they can beat Miami in this game. If they can follow the protocol and follow what Notre Dame did, but take the next step, I think Pitt can beat Miami, Florida, and I think that could shake up a lot of the college football playoff rankings. UCF 5 and 6 overall, will travel out to BYU. 1 o'clock kick. BYU 17.5-point favorite. I'm going to take BYU in that game. That game at 1 o'clock on ESPN2. At 3:30 on ESPN, it will be Vanderbilt, 14th ranked in the country, traveling to Tennessee, the Rocky Top, to take on the Volunteers of Tennessee. I'm going to take Tennessee to beat Vanderbilt and put Vanderbilt away at 3 losses there. 3:30 kick on ABC sees the 8th ranked Oklahoma Sooners 9-2 overall, taking on the 7-4 LSU Tigers. Oklahoma 10.5-point favorite. I'm going to take Oklahoma in that game. The night games look like this. Virginia Tech travels to Virginia. Virginia 8.5-point favorite. 7 o'clock kick. I'm going to take Virginia to beat Virginia Tech. The Iron Bowl. 10th ranked Alabama, 9-2 overall, taking on Auburn, who's 5-6. Auburn needs this game to be bowl eligible. I think they play Alabama tough. Alabama's giving up 6.5 to Auburn. I'm going to play Auburn plus 6.5 in this game, and there's a possibility I might take. I'm going to think about this. I'm still thinking about. I might have Auburn win this football game. Night game in Auburn. It's a good shot that could happen. Good shot can happen. Tulane 9-2 overall, taking on Charlotte. That's an easy win for Tulane. They're 30.5-point favorites. I think they're going to easily win that. SMU 8-3 overall, takes on California, who is 6-5. 8 o'clock kick on ESPN2. I'm good, and SMU giving 13.5. I'm taking SMU in that game. So then, let's get into the MAC really quick. I want to get into that situation before we get to the big games, of course, which will all be in the Big Ten this upcoming week. And the situation is huge going forward. With Bowling Green winning today, 45-14, doesn't really matter what the scenario is. But Western Michigan is playing Eastern Michigan right now as we speak. At halftime, Western's up 17-7. Western wins out, they're in. They're automatically going to Detroit next Saturday to play in the MAC championship game, noon kickoff. Here's where the scenarios will be now in play when it comes to this whole situation with the MAC championship and everything like that, and the situations when it comes to that. Here is the scenarios. Here is the scenarios right now when it comes to that. I'm going to pull it up. I'm pulling it up really, really quickly for you guys. There is 4 teams right now. 4 teams that are having a shot of getting to the MAC championship besides Western Michigan. Besides Western Michigan. I wanted to pull this up. And here it is. Here. Here's the situation when it comes to the playoff situation, when it comes to the whole Mid-American Conference situation. And it is huge. It is absolutely huge when it comes to it. The situation looks like this. So, with the win, if Toledo wins out and a Ohio loss to Buffalo or a Miami loss, they're in. Can't seem to find it. Hold on. I want to make sure this is right. Give me a second here. All right, here it is. Here's the situation. So there is 14 scenarios when it comes to this. If Western beats Eastern Michigan, Buffalo beats Ohio, Miami beats Ball State, Toledo beats Central Michigan, Toledo beats Miami in the head-to-head, and will play in Detroit for the MAC championship. Western beats Eastern Michigan, Buffalo beats Ohio, Ball State beats Miami, and Toledo beats Central. Toledo's got to beat Central no matter what the situation. They're in 6-2. They're in. Another situation: Ohio beats Buffalo, Ball State beats Miami, Toledo beats Central Michigan. It's Toledo versus Ohio are tied, but Toledo gets the points because of the situation. Another one: Eastern Michigan beats Western Michigan. Eastern beats Western, and this is the situation right now. But Western's up 17-7 at halftime right now. If Eastern came back and wins, Buffalo beats Ohio, Miami beats Ball State, Toledo beats Central Michigan. It's a 3-way tie, and Toledo would get into the MAC championship game. If Eastern beats Western, Ohio beats Buffalo, Miami beats Ball State. It's a 4-way tie. Toledo gets in because of strength of schedule. Another one: Eastern beats Western, Buffalo beats Ohio, Ball State beats Miami, and Toledo beats Central Michigan. Toledo's clearly in. They're in. And again, the situation: Eastern beats Western, Ohio beats Buffalo, Ball State beats Miami, Toledo beats Central Michigan. Toledo and Ohio would tie. And after Western Michigan advances, Toledo would play in the MAC championship game. Here's the situation for Miami of Ohio. They have 12 situations. They've got to go in, beat Ball State, have Toledo beat Central Michigan. Miami wins a 3-way tie in common opponents. They're in. But that's if Western beats Eastern, Ohio beats Buffalo, Miami beats Ball State, and Toledo beats Central Michigan. If Western beats Eastern Michigan, Buffalo beats Ohio, Miami wins against Ball State, and Central Michigan beats Toledo. Miami wins the tie versus Central Michigan in common opponents, and they're in. If Central beats Toledo and Miami loses to Ball State, and Ohio beats Buffalo, and Eastern beats Western, Ohio is in the MAC championship game. So it is a crazy situation when it comes to four teams have their own. They are watching and playing to get into Ford Field next Saturday. If you're a Toledo fan, you just got to win and watch. And you will know by Friday what the situation is. You know you're going bowling, but will you be playing for the MAC championship come next Saturday? But you got to beat Central first. And they're getting a 10.5-point favorites. I think Toledo will win. Western, I have Western beating Eastern Michigan tonight. I think that's going to be a for sure thing. But then you look at the rest of the slate in the MAC. Of course, like I said, Ohio is playing Buffalo this week in games in the MAC. Ohio is favored in this game. They are favored by 7.5. Noon kickoff on Friday against the Bulls of Buffalo. So we'll see what happens. I have Ohio winning that game. Kent State and Northern Illinois, game doesn't really matter. Both teams are not going bowling. Noon kick on CBS Sports Network. I have Kent State upsetting Northern Illinois, getting their 5th win of the season. Saturday, 2 noon kicks. Like I mentioned before, Ball State plays Miami of Ohio. Miami of Ohio, 17.5-point favorite. I'm going to take Miami of Ohio, beat Ball State. And then I have Toledo giving 10.5 to Central Michigan. Both teams 7-4. Both teams needing to get to, if they want to get to Detroit, they have to win. I'm going to take Toledo to beat Central Michigan, but don't count out the chips. I've seen them. They're similar to Bowling Green. They're a good running team. They're a pound and ground football team. If Toledo can get the job done, if they can settle it down, they can win. But it's Jason Candle, big game Candle. He has to win big. This is a big one. It's an absolute big one for him. So we'll see what happens. And then, of course, you get into the Big Ten schedule. Of course, Big Ten slate starts on Friday. Iowa, Nebraska, noon kick on CBS. Both teams 7-4. Iowa 6.5-point favorite. I'm going to take the Hawkeyes in Iowa in that game. Second-ranked Indiana goes to Purdue to take on the Boilermakers. I've got Indiana cruising this victory. 3:30 on Saturday. Sixth-ranked Oregon travels to Washington to take on the Huskies. I have Oregon winning it, but I have it circled as a close game. I think Washington could win. Oregon's giving 6.5. Washington is looking to be an upset. It could be a 9-3 team. We'll see. But I have Oregon winning that game. Wisconsin 4-7 goes to play Minnesota, who's 6-5 for Paul Bunyan's Axe. Minnesota 1.5-point favorite in the game. I'm going to actually take Wisconsin to beat Minnesota because of the fact that they were embarrassed last week by Illinois. I think that they can get the job done, and I think Wisconsin's going to get the axe from Minnesota this year. Penn State travels to Rutgers. The winner of that game gets bowl eligible. Both teams 5-6. Penn State a 13.5-point favorite. I'm going to take Penn State. Maryland travels to play Michigan State. Michigan State 3.5-point favorite. 7 o'clock kick on FS1. That game played at Ford Field in downtown Detroit. I'm going to take Michigan State to get the job done. Maybe get a little bit of that Lions magic out of it. 7:30, the battle in the Coliseum. As 17th ranked USC plays the UCLA Bruins. I hope they both wear their colored jerseys. USC a 21.5-point favorite. I'm going to take USC in the game. 7:30 kick. Northwestern 6-5 travels to Illinois, who's 7-4. Illinois 6.5-point favorite. I have Illinois beating Northwestern, and of course this means the game. It is time to talk about this. This is a big one. Of course, I wanted to talk about this, and this one is a little bit more meaningful for me in this game. Noon kickoff Saturday at the Big House in Ann Arbor. The 11-0 Ohio State Buckeyes, number one team in the country, taking on the 15th ranked Michigan Wolverines, 9-2 overall. This is a huge game. It's been over 2,000 plus days since Ohio State beat Michigan in the Big Ten. We've heard all the talk. We've seen what happened last season. Underwood's going to be very, very good this year, but the Ohio State offense is very, very good, and they have something that I have a feeling that this game is going to be brutal. It's going to be cold. It's going to be snowy. It's going to be downright. It's going to be Midwest football at its finest, ladies and gentlemen. It's going to be cold. It's going to be damp. It's going to be hard-hitting. It's going to be everything that you want as a football fan to enjoy on Thanksgiving weekend. To have that bowl of hot soup and that cold turkey sandwich and sit down on a Saturday afternoon at noon to watch probably the best game of the season, hopefully. And Ohio State is favored in this game. I can't stress it enough. If you're Ohio State, pound it. Pound it and don't let them breathe. If you're Michigan, you want to get out to an early lead and you want to keep the game close because that's going to trigger something in their head. Where do I stand in this game? As a Notre Dame fan, we're looking to Stanford, which will beat Stanford. get into the college football playoff. We'll see what happens. But for me, besides the Lions and the Tigers and the beautiful city of Frankenmuth, Michigan, and a little bit of Michigan State, we don't give a damn for the whole state of Michigan, the whole state of Michigan, the whole state of Michigan. We don't give a damn for the whole state of Michigan, 'cause we're from Ohio. Give me the Buckeyes to get it done in Ann Arbor this Saturday at noon on Fox. There is that. That is all the college football we're talking tonight. As Bowling Green finishes the season at 4-8 with a 45-14 win over UMass. As you're watching and listening to All Andy Elford tonight, right here on the All Andy Elford Podcast Network, whether it be on Apple Music, Google Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, Bleaker, however you're listening to us tonight, wherever and whenever you're listening to us. Thank you so much for tuning into the show tonight. And now let's dive into what we witnessed this past weekend in the National Football League. And I want to talk a little bit about what we saw at Ford Field. Of course, the big game, one of the big games of the week was Lions taking on the New York Giants. And I got to tell you, you have to be worried about what the Lions look like. They were punched in the face by the New York Football Giants, who don't have a coach. They got beat up by Jameis Winston. Jameis Winston ran wild on the Lions. Ran wild on the Lions. And if it wasn't for Jake Bates getting that field goal to tie the game at the end of regulation, I would be saying right now that the Lions are in trouble. Maybe 6-5. But Jahmyr Gibbs put his team on his legs and on his freaking back and powered the Lions to victory. Especially in that overtime period, especially with the 69-yard touchdown run. The first play from the overtime possession for the Lions. 69 yards for the touchdown. And the Lions defense stepped up to the plate, got it done. Hutchinson, a fantastic game for him. The Lions get the win 34-27. And like I mentioned, Jameis Winston in the game. 18 for 36 for 366 yards, 2 TDs, 1 interception. QBR rating was an 83.4. For Goff, 28 for 42 for 279 yards passing, 2 TDs, 1 interception. QBR rating was a 20.7. Can't have that happen. But Jahmyr Gibbs, 15 carries for 219 yards, 2 TDs. The longest run was the touchdown run in overtime for Jahmyr Gibbs. Amon-Ra St. Brown, 9 catches, 149 yards, 1 TD. He needed one more, and I would have won my parlay. One more. So there's that. You look at the overall team stats in the game on Sunday. Lions had 23 first downs to the Giants 25. On third down, the Lions were 5 for 13. The Giants are 8 for 16 on third down. The Lions did not convert anything on fourth down, and the Giants were 1 for 3 on fourth down. The Lions had 494 yards of total offense, 257 through the air, 237 on the ground. For the Giants, they had 517 total yards of offense, 395 through the air, 122 on the ground. Penalties, again, 9 penalties for 81 yards for the Lions. They've got to clean that up more and more. They have to. While the Giants had 7 penalties for 59 yards, both teams had 1 turnover interception, but the Giants led in time of possession at 37 minutes 11 seconds to the Lions, 28 minutes and 30 seconds. The Lions improved to the win. They go to 7-4. The Giants, the loss goes 2-10 overall this season. And now let's dive into the other team, of course, and we'll talk about the Browns. The Browns with Shedeur Sanders. And I got to say this. He did okay. But it's the Raiders. It's the Raiders. He did okay against the Raiders. I want to see him against a better defense, and he's going to have to face that this weekend with the 49ers. Even though the 49ers have a lot of key injuries, I think he's going to have to step up to the plate even more. And the conditions are going to be absolutely miserable in Cleveland this weekend. So he's going to have to step up more and more to being that running quarterback. So there's that. But Shedeur getting his first touchdown, Myles Garrett having 3 sacks, and the team as a total had 10 sacks in the game against the Raiders. They were up 14-3 at halftime. The big key play, of course, was a lot of it by Quinshon Judkins, who had a lot of run. But the one pass play to Dylan Sampson, which is a drop-down pass play, he gets it for 66 yards, and that was Shedeur Sanders' first touchdown pass. But the Browns getting the win. Didn't hit the over-under, which was set at 36.5. 24-10 is 34. And for Shedeur in his game, 11 for 20, 209 yards, 1 TD, 1 interception, QBR rating of an 8.7. Judkins, 16 carries for 47 yards, 2 TDs in the game. Sampson, 2 catches, 59 yards, 1 TD. Errol Fanning, 4 catches, 40 yards in the game. For the Raiders, it was Geno Smith. He was 30 for 34 for 285, 1 TD, no interceptions, QBR rating of a 12.7. If you look over the overall team stats, the Browns had 11 first downs to the Raiders 19. On third down, the Browns were 3 for 12. Raiders were 4 for 17 on third down. Raiders 1 for 3 on fourth down. The Browns did not convert on third down. Of the 270 total yards of offense, 206 through the air for the Browns, 208, 64 on the ground for the Browns. Of the 268 for the Raiders, 208 through the air, 60 yards in rushing. That defense was strong. The Browns. There's a lot of good, strong defense. The Browns. There's a lot of positives out of that. But the Raiders, 13 penalties for 109 yards. Ooh, that's terrible. But it doesn't help that the Browns had 8 penalties for 77. Raiders led in time of possession 36 minutes, 26 seconds to the Browns 23 minutes, 34 seconds. The Browns, with the win, go to 3-8. Raiders are 2-9 on the season. And you look at the rest of the slate in the National Football League in Week 12. The Bills getting upset on Thursday Night Football to the Houston Texans 23-19 was a shocker. How about the Colts taking the lead up 20-9 on the Chiefs, but then in the end the Chiefs come roaring back and win in overtime 23-20. The Bears are for real. I'm getting kind of worried about the Bears with the win. They have played some of the bad teams. They won 31-28 over the Steelers. The Patriots are back. I think 26-20 victory over the Bengals, and it was Joe Flacco. And we're hearing that Joe Burrow might be back this week on Thanksgiving against Lamar. We'll keep our finger crossed on that one. And speaking of Lamar, they get the win 23-10 over the Jets. Seahawks a huge 30-24 win over the Titans. Green Bay just slaughtering the Vikings 23-6. It was the Jaguars in overtime beating the Arizona Cardinals 27-24. Atlanta a 24-10 win over the Saints. You had the Cowboys down 21-0. The Eagles and the Cowboys were playing. Eagles up 21-0. The Cowboys come back from a 21-point deficit, the largest comeback in franchise history, to come back, and they win with a field goal at the end of the game at the gun, 24-21. And it was all Matthew Stafford on Sunday Night Football with a 34-7 win over Baker Mayfield and the Buccaneers. And I'm worried about Baker. He got down. He got injured towards the end of the first half, and he did not look the same the rest of the game. It was Teddy Bridgewater the rest of the way. I'm concerned about that going forward. And then you had Brock Purdy come back, throw 3 interceptions, but in the end, the 49ers are winner over the Panthers 20-9. So then we get into the slate for this week. And of course, big games on Thursday. I think this is the best slate of Thanksgiving football that we have ever seen. If you got dinner reservations or dinner spots, it's going to be hard to follow this. And we're going to lead with, of course, the Lions. A huge game in the NFC North as the Green Bay Packers, 7-3-1, travel to Detroit for a noon kick on Fox. The Lions, 7-4. They need this win. They lost week 1 to Green Bay. They want to get the tiebreaker. They want to have Green Bay they have to score more points than Green Bay to break the tiebreaker. They have to have better wins against the common opponents to beat Green Bay for that possibility. And I'm just going to say this right now. The Lions are a 2.5-point favorite in this game. So it's really 5.5 if you count it. I like the Lions on Thanksgiving. It's not a good record. But I will take the Lions. I will take my Lions this week. It's going to be a lot of... all 3 games, I'm going to be betting on all 3 games. It's a feast day for me in that game. Really quickly. Like I said, Lions are a 2.5-point favorite in the game. Over-under is 48.5. It's going to get close to that. You take Green Bay at the money line, they're a plus 125. Take the Lions, they're a minus 145. Be as it may. And then you have a 4:30 kick on CBS. Patrick Mahomes. I am playing on Thanksgiving this year. And the douchebag, Travis Kelce, and that bimbo taking on Dak Prescott and the Dallas Cowboys. Kansas City, a 3.5-point favorite. I'm taking Dallas to beat Kansas City. Mahomes on Thanksgiving isn't good. He's played 1 Thanksgiving game, and he isn't good. He struggled last year on Christmas. On the Black Friday against the Raiders. Remember that. Give me Dallas. Beat Kansas City. And then you have the Thursday night late game is Baltimore hosting the Bengals. And this game is a huge game because rumor has it Joe Burrow is coming back. If it's Burrow versus Lamar's shaky. Burrow coming back. Give me the Ravens to beat the Bengals because Lamar. So there's your Thursday slate. Friday, of course, they have the Black Friday game. It's a huge one, too. The Bears, 8-3, travel to Philadelphia to take on the Eagles, who are 8-3. Eagles, 7-point favorites in this game on Friday. Give me the Eagles. Beating the Bears. And then we get to the Sunday slate. Huge Sunday slate. Jaguars are in Tennessee to take on the Titans. I'm going to take the Jaguars in that one. Indy hosts the Texans. 1 o'clock kick on CBS. Indy, 4.5-point favorite. I'm going to take the Colts in that one. New Orleans travels to Miami to take on the Dolphins. 1 o'clock kick. Miami, 6-point favorites. I'm going to take the Dolphins in that game. 1 o'clock in East Rutherford, New Jersey. The Jets, 2-9, taking on the Atlanta Falcons, who are 4-7. Atlanta, 2.5-point favorite in the game. I'm going to take the Jets. I'm going to take the Falcons to beat the Jets in this game. But don't be surprised if the Jets pull a surprise one on that one. LA, at the big win against Tampa, have to go across the country to Carolina to take on the Panthers. The Panthers coming back from across the country, 6-6 overall. the Rams a 10.5-point favorite. I'm actually going to take the Panthers in this game. I'm pulling an upset. That's going to be the upset of the day. I think the Panthers can beat the Rams in that game. And then Tampa hosting Arizona. Tampa 3.5-point favorite in the game. I'm going to take Tampa in that game, which sets up the other 1 o'clock game in Cleveland. As San Francisco, led by Brock Purdy and the 49ers, come into Cleveland to take on Shedeur Sanders and the Cleveland Browns. The Browns, right now, the 49ers are 4.5-point favorite in this game. I'm taking the Browns because I think the running game is going to be the key thing because it's going to be snowy, it's going to be cold, it's going to be wet, it's going to be miserable in Cleveland. I'm going to take the Browns to beat the 49ers on Sunday in Cleveland. The 4 o'clock slate looks like this. Seattle hosting Minnesota. Seattle 10.5-point favorite. I'm going to take the Seahawks. Chargers 7-4 taking on the Raiders, who are 2-9. Chargers 9.5-point favorite. Give me the Chargers in that one. The big game, of course, across the country will be the Bills taking on the Steelers in Pittsburgh. Buffalo 3.5-point favorites. If it's miserable in Cleveland, it's going to be even miserable in Pittsburgh. And that plays into the factor of the Bills. I will take the Bills to beat Pittsburgh in that game, which sets up Sunday Night Football as the Denver Broncos travel across the country to take on the Washington Commanders. The Commanders are getting a plus 6.5 as Denver is the favorite. I'm going to take the Broncos to beat the Washington Commanders. And then the final game on Monday Night Football will be the Patriots taking on the New York Giants in Foxborough. Definitely taking the Patriots in that game. Definitely taking the Patriots in the game. So again, Thursday, I have all the home teams winning. Detroit, Dallas, and Baltimore. On Friday, I have Philadelphia beating Chicago, Jacksonville, Indianapolis, Miami, Atlanta, Carolina in the upset over the Rams, Tampa, and Cleveland to beat San Francisco. The 4 o'clock and late slate, Seattle, Chargers, Bills, Broncos, and Patriots. Take it as it may. Please bet responsibly. Gambling problem, call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit gamblingproblem.org. And we use our bets through the ESPN bet, which will now be the score bet starting December 1st. As you are watching and listening to All Andy Elford tonight right here on the All Andy Elford Podcast Network, whether it be on Apple Music, Google Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, Bleaker, however you're listening to us, wherever and whenever you're listening to us, thank you so much for tuning into the show tonight. And now, let's get into it. Let's hit the pond. Let's talk a little hockey, of course, and I'm going to start with the Jackets first and foremost. To me, last night's game against Washington was horrendous. We were not ready for this game, and now I am definitely worried about the Jackets. Especially what happened at the end of this game. My fear is this. At the end of the game, of course, Zach Werenski and Matthew Olivier were taken out of the game for an upper body injury. We have not heard yet from Dean Everson of what the situation is with regarding both players playing for tomorrow night against Toronto. And I'll tell you this: if both guys are really dinged up, I think that this could be the downfall of this Jacket team this season. I really do. And that scares me. It really scares me. Because the defensive core has helped this team out tremendously. I will say this. What I witnessed on Saturday, I was at Little Caesars for the game against the Wings. And first and foremost, I want to say to I got to finally meet a lot of the Twitter people that I talked to about the Jackets on my Twitter account. I want to say hello to you guys. It was great to finally meet you guys in person and get to see you guys in real life besides a keyboard. It was great to see you guys. I'm very, very happy to meet you guys, but let's get into the game. And thank you guys. Let's get into the game. how this team performed in 40 minutes of hockey was very, very astounding. Very, very astounding. I was ecstatic. Absolutely ecstatic of how this team performed on Saturday in Detroit. You know, Fantilli jumping out to the early lead on the power play on a 5-on-3. That was clearly a 5-on-3. And all the fans were booing, of course. Excuse me. It was clearly a penalty. And being a 5-on-3. So, yeah. Fantilli capitalizes on the power play for Werenski and Monahan. It's 1-0. And then the bad break in the start of the second period. Face off in the Jackets zone. Puck goes off the official. Raymond's there to clean it up. It's 1-1. I did not enjoy that. I did not like that. But then Miles Wood, the guy who I am enjoying his play, gets his 6th goal of the season from Matejchuk and Severson, even strength. Not even 20 seconds after that Raymond goal, getting the Jackets back to a 2-1 lead. You get into the third, set up play, Werenski from the top of the point, buries it past Lions. Buried. 3-1 Jackets. And I'm saying to myself, possibly we're going to win this game. But then Sherratt starts the scoring for Detroit. Makes it 3-2. And then with 13:25 to go, 13:25 mark of the third period, Sider, even strength, beats Jet Greaves from Feeney and Danielson. And I said, damn. The opportunity. And there was chances at the end of the game. Both teams had the opportunity. But in the end, they go to overtime. And I'm very happy that we got a point out of that whole situation. It could have been no points, but I will take a point. Wanted that second point, but Alex DeBrincat buries it over the shoulder of Jet Greaves. Jackets lose 4-3 after being up 3-1 in the third period. Lose to Detroit 4-3. Outshot Detroit in the game 35-33. Led it in the faceoff dot 57% to 43%. They were 1 for 3 on the power play. Detroit had no power play opportunities. They were 0 for 2. Out-hit Detroit. Detroit had more block shots. I'll give them that. But overall, this was the Jacket game to win. But they get a point out of it. And I'm fine with a point. But then last night, of course, like I said, the Washington game, you lose to Washington 5-1. You were down the entire game 4-0. You get close with a Matejchuk goal, but again, it goes back to the injury that Werenski and Olivier have. We don't know what the prognosis is. We'll see what happens if they will play tomorrow against Toronto. There's a busy slate for the Jackets after that. They have Toronto, Thanksgiving off, and then Friday at home against Pittsburgh. Then you get into the December slate in New Jersey on Monday, home to play Detroit on that Thursday, in Florida on Saturday at 3:30 drop, and then in Washington again on Sunday. Carolina on Tuesday the 9th, and then home for 4 straight. Ottawa, Vegas, Anaheim, Minnesota. Vegas is good. Anaheim is very good this year, which is surprising. Ottawa's decent, and Minnesota's decent. So it is a tough sled for the Jackets right now. And where they stand right now, the Jackets are 11-9-3 with 25 points, 7th in the wild card standings. The Metro's run by Carolina, the Devils, the Islanders, Washington, Pittsburgh, Philadelphia, then Columbus, then the Rangers are in last place. Carolina, New Jersey, and the Islanders. Top 3 in the Metro. In the Atlantic, Tampa, Detroit, Ottawa. wild card is Washington and Boston in the East. The West, like I said, Anaheim, 14-7-1. They're very, very good this year. Minnesota, 12-7-4, 28 points. They're very good this year. Vegas, 10-5-7 with 27 points. Very good this year. And did I mention that Ottawa is 11-7-4? They're very good. I will just say this again. I will say it again. This injury is big. You know that it could be a long season for the Union Blue. Could be a long season for the Union Blue. There's only one game in the National Hockey League tonight, and that's a rematch of the Western Conference Finals, as Dallas is in Edmonton to take on the Oilers. And after 20 minutes, the Stars are just absolutely pounding the Oilers 4-0. Like I mentioned, a huge slate tomorrow. A lot of games in the National Hockey League tomorrow. Nashville is in Detroit. Calgary is in Tampa to battle the Lightning. Flyers and Panthers. Blues, Devils, Bruins, Islanders, Sabres, Penguins. Winnipeg is in Washington to take on the Capitals, Rangers and Hurricanes, Wild and Blackhawks, San Jose and Colorado. Montreal is in Utah to battle the Utah Mammoths. Ottawa is in Vegas. Vancouver and Anaheim is a big matchup there. And Dallas is in Seattle to battle the Kraken. The Jackets are home to play the Toronto Maple Leafs tomorrow. Toronto 9-10-3. The Jackets 11-9-3. They have won the season series with Toronto in this series. They beat Toronto 6-3 on the 29th of October. And then in overtime last week, beating the Leafs 3-2 on an Adam Fantilli goal. The Jackets have won the season series. Can they go for the sweep against the Leafs this season? It would be a huge win for the Jackets in that realm. So there's that slate for you guys. Of course, the big Friday, of course, the slate game Friday in the National Hockey League. Of course, the big one, noon, 1 o'clock drop, Bruins and Rangers in the Thanksgiving showdown, Boston versus New York in that realm. So there's the NHL. Dive into the coast really quickly, because we're running short on some time here. Of course, the Walleye in action tomorrow night in Cincinnati. Coming off of a split weekend, they lose on Saturday on Hockey Fights Cancer Night in a shootout to the Wichita Thunder 4-3, but getting a huge win on Zamboni Night 4-1 over the Wichita Thunder. Lose to the Cyclones on Tuesday against them 5-4, but they did beat Fort Wayne on the 15th 2-1, and did get the win in Cincinnati on the 14th of November 5-2. And won on Wednesday on Kids Day 3-2 in that round. Like I mentioned before, they will play the Cyclones tomorrow night, 7:30 drop for that. And then on Friday, they're home to play the Wheeling Nailers on Turkey Hat drop night, 7:15 drop. Saturday, they're in Indianapolis to take on the Fuel. Sunday in Fort Wayne, 5:05 drop for that one at the Allen County War Memorial. Before they come back home Wednesday, the 3rd, 10:30 dropped against the Bloomington Bison. And then Saturday, December 6th, it is Teddy Bear Toss Night. It will be the Fort Wayne Comets back in the bank tank. Get your tickets, 419-725-WALL, ToledoWalleye.com, or head down to the Huntington Center box office or Swamp Shop box office. The big news, of course, out of the Fish is that Mitchell Lewandowski has returned to the Fish. He will be in the lineup tomorrow night. We'll see if he will be. He's back with the Fish. We don't know offhand if he will be in the lineup tomorrow night. I think he will probably be in the lineup by the weekend. So we'll see what that looks like. But going into the standings, going into this week's play, Fort Wayne is running the division right now at 10, 4 0-0 with 20 points. Toledo is right there at 8-3, 1-1 with 18 points. Indy 7-6, 1-1 with 16 points. And Cincinnati 8-6, 0-0 with 16 points. The story out of the league right now is how good Wheeling is. And Wheeling, coming into Toledo on Friday, is going to be a big matchup. Wheeling 11-3, 0-0 with 22 points, leading the league right now. And Florida is right behind them at 10-5, 0-1 with 21 points. But Wheeling, again, they're a good team this year. They're going to be a very good team this year out of the North Division of the Eastern Conference. So we'll see how that all shakes out. And again, the Fish on the ice tomorrow night. Hawkins leading in points right now with 17 points. Tanner Dickinson with 12 points. Nolan Moyle with 10 points. Hawkins, Dickinson, Moyle, Hillebrand, and Severoff, all 5 goals so far this season. Hawkins, again, leading in the assists with 12 assists. Nick Andrews with 9. Tanner Dickinson with 7. Riley McCourt with 7. And Nolan Moyle with 7. Right now, Nolan Lalone, who is the Blue Jackets goalie, sent down from Cleveland to Toledo. Save percentage of .903. Carter Geilander coming back from the tank to the tank. Save percentage of .895. And Liam Serrer is a .929 goals against at save percentage right now. Goals against average to Serrer is a 1.50. Lalone 2.38, and Geilander 2.78 so far. So there is that. At home, the Fish are 5-1, 0-1. On the road, the Fish are 3-2, 1-0. They've given up goals for is their 49, goals against is 33. Their record overall 8-3, 1-1. So there's the Fish roundup for you guys tonight, of course. Right here on All Andy Alford, of course, on the All Andy Alford Podcast Network, whether it be on Apple Music, Google Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, Bleaker, however you're listening to us tonight, wherever and whenever you're listening to us. Thank you for tuning in. Really quickly, before we get in, we'll get into an Andy Rants in just a little bit, but I want to preview WWE Survivor Series that's happening this weekend. Big matches, of course. It's going to be, of course, the traditional War Games for Survivor Series. It's a 5-on-5 matchup. The women's side of the bracket will look like this. On the bad guys side, on the heel side, you have Becky Lynch, the Kabuki Warriors, which features Asuka and Kairi Sane, Lash Legend, and Nia Jax. Those are the 5 in the women's on the heel side. On the face side, you have Rhea Ripley, Io Sky, Charlotte Flair, Alexa Bliss, and the 5th member is AJ Lee. My prediction, I think the faces will win. I have the faces beating. I have the team of AJ Lee, Charlotte Flair, Rhea Ripley, Io Sky, and Alexa Bliss to all win that match. You have 2 small matches in between, of course. The one, of course, is going to be for the Intercontinental Championship, as it will be John Cena's final Survivor Series, which will take place in San Diego. He is the Intercontinental Champion. He'll take on Dominic Mysterio, who is the hometown boy. I think John retains the title in that realm. Also, you have the traditional men's 5-on-5, which is a big matchup, of course. And it will be the Vision, which is led by Bronson Reed, Braun Breaker, and Logan Paul, with Drew McIntyre and Brock Lesnar versus Jimmy and Jay, the Usos, CM Punk, the World Heavyweight Champion, QB1, Cody Rhodes, the Undisputed Heavyweight Champion, and Roman Reigns. Prediction for that? I think the Vision and them get the job done. I think there'll be conflict between everybody. I wouldn't be surprised if Cody's team wins, but I think the Vision will probably win. I think the heels win, and that continues the storyline for them going forward. My apologies on that round. So there is that. on that face. So there's the three big key matches going forward. Of course, the Time Is Now tournament is moving on. Of course, we saw the injury to Penta. That is a bad injury on Monday Night Raw. See if that happens, and Solo now moves on. I love that Gunther's entrance is back to when he was in NXT. They need to keep that entrance going, and the fans need to start singing that entrance, because if you do sing that entrance, I think that's gonna really power Gunther. And where do I see Gunther going into this tournament? I see him beating Solo, and I see him getting to the final and facing John Cena. That's who I think is my prediction. That's my prediction. So there's that. So that's all the sports talk. Of course, now as you're listening and watching All Andy Offer tonight, right here on the All Andy Offer Podcast Network, whether it be on Apple Music, Google Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, Bleaker, however you're listening to us, wherever and whenever you're listening to us, thank you for tuning in. And now it's time for Andy Rants tonight. And of course, the big news for me is this. Of course, last year we found out, of course, that the LPGA was not coming back to Toledo. The women golfers were not going to come back to Toledo. It was going to be the Toledo Classic that took place this past year with the Aspen Tour players and the Legend players coming back. It was just released this last week that the 2026 schedule for the LPGA has been released. And again, Toledo will not be featured again and will not get the LPGA to come back to Toledo and into Northwest Ohio. And again, I say to that is that this is going to be absolutely terrible for the area and terrible for the region and terrible for what is going to happen going forward into this upcoming season. I say that because a lot of the tournaments that have been moved around this upcoming 2026 season, including the tournament that's going to be that would usually take place in Cincinnati, has now been moved from in September, Labor Day weekend, to now into May, at the beginning of the season. And for me, seeing that really gets on my nerves a bit. Really does. And the schedule was when the LPGA released the schedule for this upcoming season, it just was for me a kick in the pants. An absolute kick in the pants. It all starts in January. They go to Thailand and Singapore. They come back to the States to play in California and Arizona, which is understandable. Like I mentioned before, Chevron Championship is like the big one, of course. April 23rd through the 26th. That's really when you all start noticing. But here, May 14th through the 17th, they moved the tournament that was in Cincinnati, Ohio, that usually takes place the Labor Day weekend. They moved that now to May 14th through the 17th. When I heard that, I thought that was the stupidest move I've ever seen in my entire life. Because the week before, they're in Caldwell, New Jersey for the Mizuno American Open. They go to Cincinnati, but then the following week, they go back to Galloway, New Jersey. They go back to New Jersey. And here's another one. I thought this, because this is what would have been smart. This is what would have been smart. In June 11th to the 14th is the Dow Invitational in Midland. The following week, they're in Belmont, Michigan, for the LPGA Meyer Classic. Week after that, KMPG PGA Championship, which is huge, of course. And then you get into July. And this is when the tournament would take place in Toledo. The Evian is July 9th to the 12th. July 23rd to the 26th is the Scottish Open. The Women's Open is July 30th to the August 2nd. Okay? Okay? Across the pond. That's perfectly fine. Then you get into August. August 13th to the 16th. They're in Portland, Oregon. Coming back across. That's fine. They go to Edmonton for the KPKC Women's Open. And then August 27th through the 29th, they're in Massachusetts. And then the Solheim Cup is in the Netherlands. They come back to play in Arkansas at the end of September. Hawaii, China, Republic of Korea. They go to Kuala Lumpur, Japan. They end in Naples, Florida for 2 straight weeks. The Graham Norton and the CME Globe and the Annika. Again, this is going to be a failure again for Toledo for not getting the women's golf tournament coming back to Toledo. And again, I say it, in 2027, the U.S. Women's Open is at Inverness, and you're not promoting it with the LPGA coming back to Toledo. Are you kidding me? I just, what is it? What is it? It doesn't make any damn sense because of it. It's a slap in the face for all us golfers in this community. And again, because of Bimbo over there at One Government Center, remember, he's going to take out those 2 golf courses in the city of Toledo that are public golf courses, and then you're going to be then use it for low middle income housing, and you're going to have to play city golf courses, and you're paying the city of Toledo. I'm just saying that. He said that in the Rotary Club meeting. I will stick with what he said there. I will stick with it. So I'm not thankful that Wade won. And what he's going to do to golf. Pay more attention to his kid playing hockey than anything else. And staying up on his 2 legs instead of falling down on the ice like he usually does. Give me a break, Mr. Mayor. Well, that's one. Number 2. I'm going to say this, and I'm going to be honest with you. It's announced today that Kurt Menefee, the Kurt Menefee show, or Manahan show at a Barstool, is done. So I'm going to say this to Dave Portnoy. I'm calling Dave Portnoy right now. I'm a MAC guy in the Mid-American Conference that's been doing this show for over 19 years. Give this guy a chance. I'm 35 years old. I have gray hair on the side of my head. I do this for shits and giggles. I love talking about sports. I'm a MAC guy. I love hockey. I love sports. I'm a Midwest guy. Make it happen. Let's put all Andy Elford to Barstool Sports. I could be a lot better than that Brandon Walker. Plain and simple. And number 3, I am so thankful for you, the fans, this season. Your viewership, your listenership has been absolutely amazing. I am truly, truly grateful for that. I am thankful for my loving wife, my beautiful house, my family, my job, my friends, everything. I am so eternally grateful for that. And I am so thankful for it for this Thanksgiving week. And we have to be thankful that we live in this great country that we have. And to all those that are serving, who have served, thank you for letting us thank you for protecting and serving this great country that we live in. And we hope that you come home soon to celebrate Thanksgiving with your families. So happy Thanksgiving. From my family to yours, happy Thanksgiving. And The holidays are upon us. The holiday season is upon us. And that's all the time I have for you guys tonight right here on All Andy Offer. I know it was a long episode. I do apologize. Of course, next week we will preview Championship Week. We'll also dive into Rivalry Week. Again, Bowling Green, the win tonight over UMass. The season ends with a 4-8 record. Eddie George goes into the offseason, hopefully getting the recruits that he needs. And hopefully we see come springtime that this team might be ready. And congratulations to the seniors, and congratulations to all us Falcon fans that made it through the football season. Bring on hockey. They're getting ready to play Princeton. And that is a cool thing, too. If you haven't seen it yet, BG Hockey this weekend playing Princeton Friday and Saturday. Tickets, $3, free parking, and the concessions are $3. Because the kids, of course, are out of school for Thanksgiving break. They're playing Princeton. If you want an opportunity, you need to get away from the family. It's a 6:07 first drop on Saturday, 7:08 drop on Friday. Get your tickets, bgsufalcons.com. Get the tickets, $3 admission, free parking, $3 concessions. They're playing Hockey School in Princeton. Go see them. Go see them play Princeton. And that's all the time I have for you tonight right here on All Andy Offer. I'll be back next week to talk to you guys. Until then, this is Andy Offer saying happy Thanksgiving to you and your family at home, and to the teams you root for at home. And to my teams, go Jackets. Get the job done against Tampa and beat Pittsburgh on Friday. Go Walleye. Beat the Clones and beat the Nailers and get the job done over the weekend. Go Falcons. Congratulations, a good season, even though they're 4-8 and a D rating. Go Buckeyes. Go Reds. Go Guardians. Go Tigers, and go Hens. And more birdies and less bogeys, because victory is sweetest when you have tasted defeat. Have a great weekend and a great holiday. I will talk to you guys next week right here on the All Andy Alfred Network. Love you guys. Talk to you then.